Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well. Leslie here, and while I record this, I'm still on vacation in Hawaii. And I have learned a lot, just a lot. Family time was amazing. We got to spend time with my grandma and celebrate her birthday. She turned 91. And it was really nice because after the COVID lockdown stuff, we could not celebrate with her last year like we wanted to for her 90th. So we made it a point this year that we were all going to be there. And my favorite part of the trip was spending time with family and friends, and not just sitting around the TV. We didn't do much of that except to watch the Olympics a little bit, but the conversations were so nice to have, probably partly for me because I was in isolation and quarantine, right, with my son, and it was really nice to have adult conversations. But I really loved having the adult conversations with my cousins, because now we're all adults and now we can talk about stuff that maybe we didn't know how to express or how to articulate before. And we had one night where the cousins, my cousin Matthew had already left to go back to Kona, but the rest of us older cousins, so 20 and up, so between 20 and 40, I was the oldest, we sat around, we had a couple drinks, and we talked about our childhoods and what we remember, good times and bad times. Stories that we all remember and stories that maybe some of us only remember. And it's interesting to see the different perspectives because, of course, since we are different human beings, we see things a different way or remember things a different way through our eyes. So it was just super duper interesting, and I realized that is what, it sounds so simple, that having a conversation or talk story, as we say in Hawaii, really can bring people together, especially when it's done with love and aloha, when it's done with an openness, without any judgment, without any scolding or harshness. And yeah, I learned a lot of things that I did not know, and it just brought us closer together. It didn't cost anything. And before, I used to be scared and nervous to speak up about my feelings. Of course, I've matured now, and it's been maybe 20 years, or no, maybe like 10 to 15 years since we've gotten together, but I've never had deep conversations with my cousins like that in person in forever, partly because we are all living in different places, but also because I felt like I wasn't ready to speak up, or I didn't know how to speak up. I didn't know. I think I also didn't think my opinion was important or my perspective was important before, and now I know that it is, and I know that we can help each other by talking to each other, by being kind. I mean, it seems so simple yet so profound. And on this trip in general, I've learned, the idea of aloha has just been really, really impressed upon me from even before I moved here, even before I flew here. I talked to my cousin on my dad's side either the day before or 2 days before I flew out, and the one thing that he said to me that really resonated was, just bring the aloha, cousin. Just bring the aloha when you go there and see what happens. And just that little phrase really, really hit home, and really was something that I needed to hear, because it's so true. When you bring the aloha comes back to you. And something else that happened recently was yesterday Damien and I flew from Kauai to Oahu. So right now, as I record this, I'm on Oahu. When I was writing the blog, I was on Kauai. So, but anywho, we were on Oahu, and long story short, we went through TSA, and there was this older tourist couple that tried to swipe our iPad during TSA, and yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked that this had happened to me. Lihue Airport is a smaller sized airport. I mean, it's usually very chill, and I've flown a good amount over my life between going to boarding school and back and all this, and from the mainland and back, and inner island and all this. So I don't have a problem at all with flying. But this was the first time ever that I went to TSA security and had an issue. So we took out our laptops, or took out my laptop and the iPad out, and put it on in the little bin thingy to go through the conveyor belt. And while we did that, Damien walked through the metal detector thing. I walked through the metal detector thing, and for some reason I got beeped. So the lady had to pat me down, and during those few seconds, we were not paying attention to our stuff because we thought it was safe there at TSA. And the older gentleman swiped our iPad, and I know this because I had to talk to the lead of security at TSA. He went upstairs and checked the cameras, and fortunately found out who it was, and thankfully and gratefully searched the airport to grab our iPad back. When they brought it back to us, I had to unlock it, of course, to prove that it was ours. And and the security guard was like, or the head of security was like, this almost went to Seattle, so we were fortunate that we caught it when we did. Like, oh my goodness. And as I'm sitting there waiting there at the TSA for them to do their research and to find it, like, I was boiling inside. Like, I was just like, oh my goodness, and I was trying hard really not to think words that are not so kind, and I had to keep my cool even under a super tough situation. I mean, yeah. And my son was with me, of course, so, and that's, even though it's my iPad, technically he's the one that's always on it, so he was very upset, and I was keeping my cool so that I wouldn't make him even more upset. But it was just a lesson in aloha, because I just had to send that person love and light. And if I had gone crazy, if I had gone bonkers and raged, who knows if I would have gotten that iPad back. Sometimes I've learned in customer service that, especially, that you have to be kind to, or let me say, if you're kind, the result that you would like will most likely happen easier. I've noticed that when I'm gruff and rough and you better do this or else I'm gonna that doesn't work. Maybe it worked 20-30 years ago, but it doesn't work now. It doesn't work today. And I don't know if you saw my post on Instagram, but I just got a hat that says Aloha brings change, which is so true. And we just have to remember that. I'm also thinking about the protesters, the Kia'i protectors of Mauna Kea, the sacred volcano on the Big Island, because as they were protecting the Mauna, a lot of the kapunas and stuff like that a few years ago got arrested, and by police officers that were, some of them were Hawaiian, some of them were local, some of them probably even knew the kapuna. But the protectors of Mauna Kea were always loving and showing aloha. What did they do when they got arrested? They didn't yell, they didn't scream, they kept their composure. Instead they sang. So I get a little choked up about it because it's just so beautiful. And before, I used to think that being loving and kind was soft, but it takes so much strength to be loving and kind, even more so. And I could not be loving and kind unless I did the work to take time for me, to make sure I do my gratitudes, to make sure I, remember where I've been, and celebrate every success, and also having a supportive network of people who remind me when I forget that I'm doing a good job, that remind me. And every time I get a compliment, and it's not to be like, oh, I'm so awesome, I'm so da-da-da, and stuck up about it. It's like, we need that remembrance. We need to know that we're awesome just for waking up. Before saying goodbye to my family on Kauai yesterday, my uncle said, you're doing a great job raising him, and you got what it takes. And I'm going to remember that for a really, really long time. I choose to remember that for a really long time, because sometimes you just need that affirmation, that confirmation that you're doing the right thing, And sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees when you're going through something, or when you're in a situation and you don't know what the heck to do next. We can connect to our higher power, we can connect to our community, we can reach out for help and say, hey, I need help, I'm feeling this way. And it's easier to do that, and it's easier to be a safe place for people when we are bringing the aloha and the love and the kindness. So that's what I choose to do more. So I highly recommend, if you can, to talk story more, to have those conversations, even if they get a little hairy or a little tough, I'm getting much better at holding space. So if someone says something that makes me feel that I don't necessarily agree with, for me, holding space is to hold my tongue and just sending them love and light in my brain, in my heart. I just picture that person while they're talking, and I'm still listening to them, but I'm sending them Care Bear vibes, lots of love and light, and it seems to help. It seems to have a positive impact. So hope you guys found this video helpful. If you love this and you love more of stuff like this, I would love to have you in my group, or if you know somebody that does, that would be into this. My group's name is All Heart and Hopeful Happy Healthy Moms, and I hope everyone has a great day and lots of love and aloha.